Hello class, it's Michael. For the final video I will be posting, I'll be informing all y'all on bass fishing. Now fishing is a recreational sport that most people have done, usually consists of a very cheap reel and rod, as well as a bobber and a hook. Usually you put a worm on that hook, you cast it out, sit there and wait till you see the bobber go down, then you kind of jerk it up and you got a fish. Now going farther into that field as I've done, I've spent a lot of time, a couple of years now, and too much money spent on bass fishing. Bass fishing is a very different type of fishing where it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of studying as well as tactics to be able to catch these fish. Starting off, because I started off with explaining the usual way that people catch fish, I'll be starting off with showing the new kind of style that I use now, and this reel is called a bait caster. This allows me to cast to 150 to 200 feet. Allows me to cast a great distance, and this rod is a lot longer than most people have seen, and it's a lot thicker than most people have seen. That's because this is meant for bigger fish. And now there are different types of rods. This rod that I'm currently holding is a heavier rod. This is a heavy rod, 7.3. Also, the length of the rod determines how far you can cast. But yes, this is a heavy 7.3 rod, and this just allows me to throw heavier baits. Like this bait here, this is a half-ounce spinner bait. This just allows the mimicking of fish called shad. Now, bass eat shad for a year diet, and it's what they use to get as big as they do. Now, oops, got that stuck. Moving on to a different type of rod. This rod is not as tall and not as thick. This is a 7-foot medium action rod. As you can see, I have a different bait on there. Now this bait is called a hard bait, or more specifically, this is called a crankbait. This is also used to mimic shad, but just one shad, and it's only to mimic that it's hurt and it's trying to flee something. So that's what's used in these situations. And the third type of category are soft plastics. Now, any rod is usually pretty good for this. I personally prefer another thick rod, such as the one I already showed, and that's what this looks like on another bait casting setup. This is a creature bait. This is a craw, because bass love to eat craws. But on top of the other soft plastics that I use, things like this worm, just a regular old worm. They come in, there's thousands and thousands of products out there, like just like this, or different types, such as, there's also this kind of worm. Now these can be used in different situations. Usually I use them for pitching up into brush, into reeds, or anything like that, and I have a heavy weight behind them so I can push in there and get any bass that may be hiding under any foliage. Now the last type, I don't have this rigged up to a rod, so I can't show y'all, but it's topwater. Now topwater is my favorite personal way to fish, but the problem with topwater is you can only usually do it in the morning, and it's best during the summertime. And this is what I use. It's called a frog. It's called a poppin' frog. And if you hear it, oh, it's hollow. And this allows this frog to float, and I just pop it, and bass like to come up, look at it from below, and they like to ambush it. So they basically come up and just grab it from behind. That's when you set the hook. So, as you can see, there's many different types of baits. I've got a lot of baits that I can't cover at the moment right now, because there's thousands and thousands, and there's still plenty of baits that are still being made. But I hope that this gives you an insight into fishing, and you go out and catch them all.